Raj Thiruchelvarajah is the co-founder of Hytro, a company which makes wearable blood flow restriction products for athletes and more. Raj's business partner had a great network before the company was even launched, which got them off to a flying start. Thank you very much for being my guest on the podcast today, Raj.
Thank you for inviting me. Pleased to be here.
Now, you're the co-founder of a company called Hytro, which we'll talk about in a bit, but I wanted to dig into your background a little bit first. I understand that your first career was in finance, is that right?
That's correct, yeah. It was a very kind of a straightforward career where I joined a Big Four accountancy straight out of uni. Spent 15 years banking, management consultancy, specialised in running change projects, which actually kind of translated well to startup life. But that was definitely, that was the first 15 years of my career before I did something very different.
Yeah, so what drew you to finance in the first place? Why that career?
I think I was quite good at maths as a kid. I've got Asian background. You either become you go into finance, become a lawyer or a doctor. Really, that's the choices at that point in time. I think the world has changed very much now, where there are more routes in terms of acceptable careers for many people. Back then, it was you're going to go to a Big Four accountancy firm, you're going to go to investment bank, or you go to consultancy straight away in that kind of business area. And so it wasn't really much to think about. It was okay. That seems like a logical step. It's a good start as a career. And so let's go and do that. And It made my parents very happy as well.
Always a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, who were some of the companies that you worked for in that period?
So PwC, PA Consulting, Bank of New York, Barclays. I was at the Bank of England for a bit as well. So yeah, lots of kind of city institutions as you'd expect.
Yeah. And what did you learn from working for those big corporations that's helped you in your entrepreneurial life?
There's so much, actually. I mean, I think one of the things that often even nowadays a little bit, looking at corporate life is looked down upon a little bit. Everyone sees, I want to go enjoy Google or Meta or the next startup. And actually, there's a lot of value in having a corporate kind of start to a career, particularly when I did kind of the accountancy qualifications, the ATA. It's a great fundamental. You understand about balance sheets, profit and loss. You understand about the financial health of an organization, and you can read that kind of information. And also then, consulting is often derided a little bit. People think, what value do consultants do? But constantly in consulting, what happens is you're pitched into new environments that you know nothing about. You have to learn really quickly and know the area as well as the people who work there on a day-to-day basis. So the learning curve is immense. And then you have to kind of advise and kind of strategize about what to do to improve the situations. And actually that correlates and kind of links up to a lot of what startup life is about as well. So there are definite value in having that experience in a corporate life before moving into a startup world.
Yeah. So what was it that made you switch careers then?
I just had enough, to be honest. I think it was is that piece on fulfillment and purpose. I think so. I was 15 years in. I remember one of my last kind of projects as a consulting, we spent 30 hours in an office without leaving at one point. And I was thinking, what is the point of this? Do I actually want to be a partner here? And that you get a bit more status, a bit more money, but same job, more stress. Actually, what's the fulfillment in that?
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to create something myself. I've always been into like sport and health and fitness. So I wanted to do something in that area. And that led me on a path to kind of where I am now.
Yeah. Now, tell me something about your current business then, Hytro. What is it and what do you do?
So Hytro is a human performance company and we're pioneering blood flow restriction wearables. So our products enable athletes of all levels to perform better and recover faster. So we work with over 300 pro sport and college teams across the world. We have some of the greatest athletes on the planet who use our product. While off planet, actually, we've also worked with NASA and SpaceX. So we've been on 2 space missions with Polaris Dawn mission last year and the Fram 2 earlier this year. Because one of the problems astronauts have is the retention of muscle and bone health, and our product can help with that. So it's a really interesting, cool area, science-backed. There's thousands of research papers on BFR, and we're doing more of the research as well on ourselves to pioneer kind of BFR itself.
Yeah. So tell me about blood flow restriction then. What's the science behind it? Why does it work?
Yeah, so there's a lot. Firstly, there's a lot of science behind it, and the way it works very simply is you have a kind of a tourniquet or a band at the uppermost part of the arms or legs. You restrict the venous return of blood. You allow the arterial flow into the arms and legs. that restriction causes a cascade of physiological adaptation. So things get upregulation of, for example, muscle protein synthesis, growth hormones. You get, when you unstrap, you get something called reperfusion, which is driving fresh nutrient-rich blood into ligaments and tendons. And you also get a flushing effect, which removes inflammation. So there's a load of compounding effects that you get that help you perform better and accelerate faster. So that's particularly why pro sport athletes in particular is our starting market.
Yeah. And how was it discovered that this was a good thing to do?
So BFR has actually been around for about 60 years. It was originated in Japan through something called Katsu training, but it had never been scaled before. And so the credit is to my co-founder, Dr. Warren Bradley. So he has a PhD in human physiology, spent a decade working in pro sports. He saw the technique of blood flow restriction being used in every team that he worked for as a rehabilitation tool. So he saw, for example, players meant to come back in 10 weeks from injury, come back in 6 weeks from using BFR. So he wanted to know more about it. He did a deep dive into the research, found it was incredibly compelling, and then didn't understand why more people didn't hear it or didn't know about BFR and why it wasn't being used on a squad-wide basis. And the problem was the tools available. So the classic tools for blood flow restriction, really cumbersome, expensive, lots of digital boxes, wires everywhere. You can't scale that. And so what Warren's genius moment was to integrate BFR into garments to create the world's first BFR wearables. And now you've got a scalable product. And that's the essence of what Hytro is.
Yeah. So tell me what your product looks like.
So it looks like kind of t-shirts and shorts with straps in them. It looks actually very simple. There's a lot of science behind it to make it simple. And that's actually what we do at Hytro. We simplify the science to make a product practical and easy to use. And so you can go on our website, hytro.com, and you'll see athletes in particular on our website. And they've got these t-shirts and shorts with the tech integrated in there. Means they can use it and deploy it in seconds, and then they can unstrap as well in a few seconds as well. So it just makes it easy to fit into their existing training.
Yeah. And what's it feel like to wear the product?
So when it's off, it just feels like a normal t-shirt shorts. But when you turn it on, obviously you can feel that restriction in the arms and legs, and you can feel it working straight away. So you can start to see what's called cell swelling. So your arms and legs are pooling with blood. So it starts to feel a bit uncomfortable. That's what you look for performance. So athletes actually love that. So the mentality of an athlete is, I want to feel a bit uncomfortable. I want to know that this is doing something for me, and it definitely does that.
Yeah. So tell me about some of the people that are using it and what kinds of sports they're taking part in.
Yes, we started domestically here in the UK, kind of football, cricket, rugby, Formula One. So most of the Premier League teams use our product in some capacity. We've then pushed the business very much over to the US market. A lot of NFL teams are using our product now in particular. Often they use it for immediate post-game recovery. So straight away post-game, they'll put on their Hytro products to start the recovery process. It's the versatility of our product that enables teams to do that. A lot of them also use it for traveling. So traveling classically is a time when they can't do a lot, but actually you can use our product while on a bus, on a plane, so they can use it for recovery during that time as well.
Oh, that's really interesting. So tell me about the kinds of results that people are seeing from using your product.
So one of the big things is kind of player availability. So we had this thing last year where we sold to our first handful of NFL teams, and they all had increased player availability for the last season. So that's a big thing for us because BFR doesn't stress the body in the same way as kind of high impact exercise. It means you can get those adaptations without the stress for the body. You can also, it enables you to do recovery in more situations like I just spoke about. So therefore you can get more recovery work into players and not stress the body. You get greater player availability, and it's a big metric that what teams look for.
Yeah. Now you mentioned already that it's not just sport, and you've been your products have been to space. Is this exactly the same product, or is it something different?
It's the same product. So one of the kind of beauties of our products is it's applicable to so many different people in many different ways. And so we've started in the pro sport space because that's the most authentic to us. So that's Warren's background. Pro sports already use BFR, but now we can scale it to being squad wide rather than just for rehabilitation. And pro sports helps because it increases like awareness, credibility, authenticates the product. But then that's a precursor to moving into other markets, so space being one of them. We've had some conversation with military, across the world. I can't talk too much about that, but military personnel. We're looking at the physical therapy clinic market in the US, so that's another opportunity to scale. And then also the direct to consumer, so endurance athletes in particular. So we work, for example, with a couple of Tour de France cycling teams at the moment, and cyclists, ultra runners, triathletes will definitely be a market for us because they engage in the science, they're looking for performance, they look for products like Hytro.
Yeah. And is it just for sports people and space people, or is it any use to ordinary people too?
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. And actually, so a lot of the research in BFR has actually been done in elderly people, particularly regarding sarcopenia. So it's the loss of muscle mass, which is a big problem for elderly people. And BFR and Hytro can help with that. But there'll be a sequence of getting to that market. You can't be all things to all people straight away. And we're very much a performance brand at the moment. So we're working with athletes. We're working with kind of elite athletes at the top end. And then astronauts are still athletes, really. Military, you could still view the same. And we're looking at endurance cyclists. But we will get through the spectrum to try and help everybody at some point in this journey. But we can't do everything at any one time. It's the sequencing. That's the critical aspect of our strategy, really.
Yeah. So how has your business grown? I mean, how many people are involved in it now?
We still try to keep it quite small. And I think the way the world is going, I talk about this quite a lot, the way the world is going with AI, you can scale to quite a sizable amount without having too many people on. So we've kept the FTE, the full-time members is still only like 5, but then we do operate with fractional headcounts that add really another 6 or 7 to that as well. But we're trying to keep it quite lean, even though we're VC backed now and there is kind of more funds. We try to keep the minimal headcounts and what we need, so we're as lean as possible going forward.
Yeah. And how do you get your customers? How do you market yourself?
A lot of it's actually about the power of the network. So Warren was a pro sport coach before also being with Hytro, and he did that for a decade. And Warren is actually phenomenal at networking. He's just so energetic. You put him in a room and he just goes around and talks to everybody. He's one of those kind of people. He's far better at it than I am. So he knows a lot of people, and that has actually been the basis of Hytro and how we've done so well. And a lot of people look at us and go, oh, how do you get into so many pro sport teams? And the answer is Warren and the networking he did over 10 years. So that enabled us to get us into a first few clubs, and then coaches speak to other coaches. And pro sport coaching community is actually quite a small, close-knit one. So there's a lot of word of mouth and how that travels. So one coach will be at a conference with another coach, and they'll talk about, oh, what are you using at the moment for recovery? And they'll be using Hytro, and this is the results that we've had from it. Oh, that's phenomenal. Can I try it? And they'll get in touch with us, and they go, oh, Warren's part of it. Oh, I already know Warren, is often the case. And then what's also happened is we've done a number of funding rounds, and initially we were selling to pro sport coaches, and they'd buy the product and they love it and they'd implement it with a team, and they'd say 2 things which are just, oh, I wish I'd thought of it, and then how can I get involved? And then they actually ended up investing. So we have over 100 pro sport coaches and athletes across the world, so in the Premier League, in the NFL, in colleges and so on, who are investors in Hytro. So not only is our kind of network, our community, and also our investors, and our buyers, so it's a great way of amplifying everything we do. And they're advocates for us. So we have so many opportunities come from our community of kind of pro sport coaches, because they just keep adding opportunities for us because it's in their interest, because they're also investors and they believe in our products.
Yeah. And do you also attend events and things, trade shows and that kind of thing to grow your network?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a big thing in the pro sports community, in particular about in-person events and networking. I think the relationships that you can build, you can only do so much online. I know the world is very much post-COVID that way, but I think the in-person, pressing the flesh, spending time with people, sounds a bit old school, but actually going out for drinks with people is actually really important in terms of building that network. And we do more of that. We need to get more. We've been across to the US many, many times now, Warren in particular, and then we've got Chase, who's out there now as our full-time member of staff out there. And we know that being in person, going out to the teams, talking to the coaches, listening and understanding their problems is actually a fundamental part of this. I think the basis for our business is listening to pro sport coaches, and so we have to do that. And to do that the best way is face to face.
Yeah. And is networking something that you actually enjoy doing?
I think Warren definitely loves doing it. I think I'm quite introverted by nature, so it's probably a little bit more of a push. But I always, I think probably classically don't particularly like the thought of it. But once I'm there, then I really do enjoy it. And I'm part of, for example, a network called the British Asian Entrepreneurs Network, HQ, and led by Amar and Gervir. And that's been a phenomenal network to see how they're supporting the Asian community and bringing that together. We were at the House of Lords the other day when they were presenting their kind of report on the impact of lack of funding in kind of Asian community and startup founders. And that was really interesting. But that community has been powerful for us as a company. And I think what we've seen through our existence at Hytro is community has power, but it has to be an authentic community. A lot of companies, often I hear this at the beginning with founders, they'll go, I'm going to build a community and, you're going to be in my community and you're going to be in my community and you're going to be, that's not how it works. It has to be really authentic. And ours started with a decade of Warren in pro sports and then them loving our product and then it all coming together. And the BHQ started for me because they found me online. I went on their podcast. I think I was fourth on their podcast. Now they've done, I think, 300 and now they've got some really big names. I don't know if I'd make it back onto the podcast now, but just being with them from the journey from the beginning and actually not wanting anything out of it. I did it because I just believed in what they were doing. And then that's been great for us as a company as well.
Yeah. So what's next for Hytro? What are your plans for the future?
So I think immediate term, it's continue the push into the US market, pro sports and colleges. We kind of want to dominate that market. We're exploring other verticals. So particularly kind of military is one that's really interests us, some really clear use cases in that, the physical therapy clinic as well. And it's, again, that sequencing over time of building the business into the different verticals. I mean, the direct-to-consumer market I talked about earlier is really exciting for us, but we need to get there over time. And also, just as the way we work is like research is at the forefront of everything you're doing, really interested to see how we can pioneer blood flow restriction research and what that will uncover in terms of the impact of BFR in new areas that maybe people haven't thought of before. And we're looking to be thought leaders in that area.
Yeah. So would you ever go back to your former life now that you've been an entrepreneur?
I think I'd find it really difficult. Yeah. But one thing, I've been in charge for 6 years now, being a CEO of the company. I'd probably be unemployable at this point in time. I don't think I could take orders from anyone. So I like to call the shots. So I think that would be quite difficult. And also, you move so fast as a startup. Like we can pivot in an instant. We can do whatever we want to do. Like now, if I decided to do something completely different this afternoon, we're doing it because that's the direction we want to take. In a corporate machine where it's slow and you have to go through layers of bureaucracy, I think I'd find it really, really difficult. And I sometimes forget actually how slow it is until I speak to people back in the area. I'm like, oh, that feels really like cumbersome and really slow. How do you cope with this? So I'm used to a certain way of working now that actually I really enjoy.
Yeah, fantastic. So my final question then, Raj, if people want to know more about you, about your product, about Hytro, what is the best place for them to find you?
So our website is hytro.com, hytro.com. We're kind of quite up on our socials. So LinkedIn, Instagram. So obviously follow Hytro on that, or myself, on LinkedIn as well, or my co-founder, Dr. Warren Bradley. Wonderful.
Well, thank you for being my guest. That's been a really fascinating conversation.
Thank you, Liz. Appreciate the invite on. Thank you.